So I'm going to talk about the no longer silent mandate. I'm going to get into a little bit of Pro-Life Man's mission and how we were founded. And so real briefly, I was convicted that I wasn't doing enough in the pro-life movement as a pro-life man, and I wanted to join a men's organization. And I searched and searched looking for a specific pro-life men's organization, and I couldn't find one. I knew about Knights of Columbus and the wonderful work that they do, but I was really looking for an organization that just really focused, spearheaded the pro-life issue. I couldn't find an organization, so long story short, I went to prolifeman.com thinking that there would be a website there. It made sense to me that there would already be a website in existence named Pro-Life Man. There wasn't. Then there was a little ad on the website that said, buy this domain for $17, and I did. It's a little more expensive these days with inflation, but at any rate, so then I remember I did that at work on my lunch break. I came home, and I told my wife, hey, I bought a website today. And of course, her first question was, how much? But the next question was, why did you do that? I said, I don't know. She said, well, what are you going to do with it? I don't know. And she said, okay, then why did you buy this website? I said, I don't know. I just felt like that I needed to. And so over the coming days and weeks and months, as I tried to figure out what can I do, I reflected my own personal story about how I was always pro-life personally, but I was never vocally pro-life. Right? I was like, I'm pro-life. I know it's a baby from the moment of conception, but I'm a man, so I don't want to force my will on women, right? So I'm going to stay silent. And so no longer silent is our tagline because that was my personal tagline. I committed to the Lord that I was going to be no longer silent on this topic of abortion. And I thought, well, one thing I can do this website is I can help encourage other men and convince other men to also be no longer silent. Because if the my body, my choice arguments successfully silenced me, there has to be many other men out there that are also been successfully silenced based on those arguments. So I'm going to combat those head on. I'm going to fight against that. So in 2018, I started a simple website and a Facebook page, and I just started doing daily postings, encouraging men to be a voice. We also like to combat the common pro-choice, pro-abortion arguments and lies. And then in 2019, I formed a board, got our 501c3 status, and became an official organization. And just when we were about ready to launch and grow, COVID hit. So we're picking up the scraps after COVID and moving along and going to events like these and encouraging men. And so those are actually our two missions. Mission number one at Pro-Life Man is to encourage men to be a voice for preborn sons and daughters. And I know I talked a little bit last night about that language being very purposeful for us. And then we also want to provide help and healing for men grieving abortion. I'm going to get into that a little bit later here in the talk. I'm often asked, well, how do you encourage men? What do you do to encourage men to be a voice? And so we tackle that in many different fronts. So in one front, we write blog posts. And so here's just a few of our blog posts that are highlighted. So we have Voting for Life, where a board member for Pro-Life Man, he goes through why it's so important to vote for pro-life candidates. And if that's your one issue, it's okay to be a single issue voter when it comes to life. So he makes that argument in Voting for Life. We tackle the no uterus, no opinion argument as well in one of our blog posts. We talk about bodily autonomy. That's the third picture that you see there. That's the real common talking point right now. Bodily autonomy, a woman has the right to bodily autonomy. And so we dismantle that argument as well. The fourth one there says why embryos and fetuses are babies and children. And this is a good point to highlight. Pro-Life Man, I'm a Christian, my entire board, we're Christians, we operate as a Christian organization, but we don't have a Christian front to Pro-Life Man. We have a secular front to Pro-Life Man. I want, of course, all people to be Christians, but I also want, even if you're not Christian or whatever your religion is, I want you to be pro-life. I want you to stand up for babies in the womb. Okay, and so a lot of times, if I'm in a debate or an argument with someone, and I use as a point to my argument Scripture, I'm not ashamed of Scripture, but if I use Scripture in my point in my argument, they just go, yeah, well, that means nothing to me. So your point means nothing. Your point is invalid. And so we approach from science, and that's the great thing about pro-life. Pro-life is pro-science, am I right? Pro-life is pro-logic, right? Pro-life is pro-facts, right? And so all of our blog posts leave out the scripture and approach everything from facts, science, intellectual reasoning. That can be hard for the other side, that last point there. But anyways, I digress. And then the fifth one that you see there, the glove, this isn't a COVID exam check. That one is called Physiology of Abortion. So my vice president has taken upon himself to take college courses on embryology, and he has several college textbooks on embryology and how babies are formed and grow in the womb. And so in that particular blog post, he references those textbooks quite often to, again, show you the medical science of what is growing in the womb. It's not a clump of cells, it's not a fish, it's not a frog, it's a human being. Another way that we encourage men to be a voice, we really want to go after the young men, the pro-life generation. And so we offer a yearly scholarship. We have 3 different places: a $1,000 scholarship, a $750 scholarship, and a $500 scholarship. So this year, we've been doing it for 2 years, and these are our last 2 years winners. And for these men to get this scholarship, they have to be biological male, number 1. We're not going to get off on that topic. That's a whole other topic. But they have to submit a pro-life essay. Why are they pro-life? They have to articulate their pro-life views. Then in that essay, they have to explain what pro-life work have they done up until this point. Have they volunteered with 40 Days for Life? Have they volunteered with their local Right to Life? And then they have to articulate, moving forward, what pro-life work do they plan to do? Do they plan to continue their pro-life work moving forward? And then after all those essays are submitted, I have a board that goes through and assigns point systems based on how they do in the essays, and then we pick 3 winners out of all of the applicants. So this year on the right, we have Grand Valley State University in my home state of Michigan represented, Bellarmine University, and then also Virginia Tech, Cash Dean over at Virginia Tech. So that's another way that we encourage men. Because here's what I found as a man that's very vocal about abortion. You get a lot of attacks, okay? I get insane amounts of attacks. Okay, I've been a Christian for 13 years. I've never experienced spiritual warfare like I have since I've been running Pro-Life Man. It's an intensely spiritual warfare arena. And so I imagine other young men, they also get discouraged. I'm sorry to say, often in my work, I'm discouraged more than I'm encouraged. I hate to say that, but from the amount of the attacks and the amount of negative things that I see out there, I'm often discouraged. And so I imagine maybe some young pro-life men are also discouraged, and I can come behind them with this scholarship and help encourage them, pat them on the back, and say, hey, I know it's not a ton of money, but you're doing a good job. Keep up the good work. Another way, some of you, if you like football, you might recognize this man. So we just started this year sending out what we call pro-life salutes, where we see men in the public sphere, whether they're being interviewed on TV or they're on a public podcast or something like that. When we see men that, they're not like Dale, right? They're not your state right to life leaders. They're these just kind of general public figures that maybe aren't so known for their pro-life views. When they make a public statement that's pro-life, we want to send them a certificate and say, congratulations, hats off. We salute you for not being afraid to speak up for life in the public sphere. And our most recent one was one of our most important ones with Jim Harbaugh, the coach of the University of Michigan football team. He spoke at a Right to Life fundraiser event and said, I believe in having the courage to let the unborn live. And it's one thing for him to say that at a Right to Life fundraiser like this, right? But then a few days later, ESPN confronted him on those words, and they spoke those words to him, and they said, do you want to backtrack on that at all? Do you want to rethink your thoughts here? And he didn't back off at all. He doubled down, he repeated the line, and then he went even further, and he said, look, me and my wife have a large house, and I've always said to all of my players and all of my staff, should any of you have an unplanned pregnancy that you don't think you have the resources to continue with that pregnancy, have that baby. Me and my wife will adopt that baby. So hats off to Jim Harbaugh. So again, sending off these pro-life salutes to these men, just another way to say, hey, you're probably receiving a lot of hate mail right now, but this is some love mail from Pro-Life Man. Keep up the good work. Thank you for being a voice for the most defenseless and innocent people group among us. Another thing that we like to do, before I reveal the next slide, is we like to engage the culture. This is one of our proud moments, our proud points. We love making memes at Pro-Life Man. I love making memes. It's a lot of fun. And we're not afraid of the culture. We like to engage the culture. We like to take the culture and spin it for the pro-life side. And so here's a couple of memes that I'm proud of. You know, we've got an abortionist saying, "I'm a doctor." Oh, we're using our made-up names now, are we? The one on the right there might be a little violent. Do you want to know why I don't use a knife? Or why I use a knife? Because guns are too quick. Now, that just shows the brutality of Planned Parenthood, right? Because they are brutal. The one on the left. This is being recorded, so I'm just going to be quiet about that one. He said he's not live streaming, but I don't know what Patrick's doing up there. I'll just say there's a lot of truth up there. That's all I'm going to say about that, right? And then, of course, I am Planned Parenthood. We made this meme before Roe v. Wade was overturned. And if you know Marvel, if you know the end of this movie, I am pro-life man, and we get rid of Planned Parenthood. So we like our memes. Another way that we engage the culture is my brand new book that I just published 3 weeks ago, Moral Reasons for Abortion. Now, I know many of you have visited my table, and you've seen what this book is about. Those of you that haven't visited the table are probably a little bit confused right now. Wait a second, Moral Reasons for Abortion. This is a pro-life convention. Andy, what are you doing? You did not run this by your wife before putting this in here. Well, the joke is there are no moral reasons for abortion, so this book is completely blank. I'm working on moral reasons against abortion, but that one actually takes a lot of ink. So it'll be a while before that book comes out. This book was fast and easy to publish, Moral Reasons for Abortion. There is one very nice substantive quote in this book that I'll read for you right now. It's from our wonderful Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. His quote is, "You can be in the middle of a hurricane, or you can be on a calm day. North is still north. People can yell at you. North is still north. It doesn't change fundamental things. Right is still right, even if you stand by yourself." So I have 2 books that I'd like to give away for free. So who wants a free book? All right, right here, Liam. And they say the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? There you go, Liam. They are available for $10 at our booth. I say they're a great present for your pro-abortion friend or family member. They will love it. While we're doing giveaways, I have a few more giveaways. I like to give away a few of our, again, this is the No Longer Silent mandate, this speech here, and we have No Longer Silent t-shirts. So who would like this shirt in a small? Anyone wear a small? Back here, the Miss Fair. Sorry, I don't know your official title. State Fair. How about a medium? We've got the girl in the back there. How about a large? Left side. Who wants a large? Yep, the lady, the girl, yep. With your hand up. Any extra large in the house? Right here in front, Liam. You know, if you want Liam to just keep running around, I'll keep giving away shirts. And we got 2X, right, Liam? Straight back. And by the way, this is my local staff. Pro-Life Man is a very, very small organization. We only have a few part-time employees, and Liam Slavin is right out of Rapid City, South Dakota. He had a quota of shirts to sell in order to get paid this week, and he met the quota, so just barely. So the next topic is one of my pet peeves with the pro-life movement. No offense to those of you that have been soldiering on in the pro-life movement for decades, but one of my pet peeves in the pro-life movement was that it was very feminine. Everything was very feminine. Dave talked about it a little bit earlier, right? But it's like there's feminine stuff, or maybe there's some gender-neutral stuff, but there's no masculine stuff. So if you've seen our other shirts, you saw the shirt Pro-Life Warrior that I was wearing yesterday, that's been one of my missions to bring masculine stuff to the pro-life movement. And not to pick on anyone too much, but pregnancy centers are starting to notice that they need to minister to men. And so they're starting to hire male employees to be directors of their men's services. Pet peeve of mine, though. They are keeping the feminine design of the pregnancy business cards that their female directors use and just copy-pasting the same business card for their male directors. And so here's an example here on the left. Again, I don't want to shame anyone, so I'm blocking a lot of the information, but you can see there's a nice, pretty flower. And this guy's saying, hey, men, here's my business card. No, it's cool. You can come talk to me. It's safe. So I'm urging, not only with my own designs, but I'm urging others, like take the time to make something a little bit more masculine. Even just a black card with white text is masculine enough, more than flowers being on it. Abortion recovery, which we're going to talk about that a little bit. Some organizations have realized, it's not just women that need abortion recovery, but there's also men that need abortion recovery. So an organization took their women's book, changed it and catered it to men, and released the Man's Guide to Abortion Recovery. Unfortunately, they left the same exact cover on that book that they had on their book for women, and so we've got the lavender flowers and the leaves, and it's really pretty. That doesn't work for men. I'm just going to say. So that's my pet peeve. Make the pro-life movement more masculine. We love the women. We need the women. Like Dave said, 50-50. We're not trying to overtake the women, but we do need more men in the pro-life movement, and we need more masculine things in the pro-life movement as well. And so on that topic, here's a few of my masculine designs of t-shirts that I'm proud of. I'm Pro-Life Warrior, Pro-Life Dad, and if you're familiar with the Mandalorian Disney TV show, then that's where the shirt on the right comes from. His famous line in that TV show is, "This is the way," and I turned that slogan into "Life is the way." A few more. Those of you familiar with Marvel and Iron Man, so the one on the left is the design of Iron Man's light symbol, his power source in his chest. And his famous saying is, "I am Iron Man." And so I changed that, and on the top of his symbol in the shirt says, "I am pro-life man." Thank you. Thank you. Of course, we have the No Longer Silent that we just gave away, and then the one on the right is the Captain America shield, and it says Pro-Life American on the bottom of that. So slowly bringing some masculine themes to the pro-life movement, and I'm pretty proud about that. Thank you. Okay, now the No Longer Silent mandate. The reason I just showed you all of this is part of that No Longer Silent mandate. Again, encouraging men to be no longer silent. We want to have all these fronts, helping out the college kids with a scholarship, going after the grown men that are in the public sphere, speaking up for life, having the blog post to help empower you to be no longer silent. You might think, yeah, I'm pro-life, but I don't know how to respond to all these different arguments. Well, you can read our blog posts, and we'll be turning those into videos soon. And we want to empower you to be no longer silent. This is why Pro-Life Man exists, to encourage men to be no longer silent. And I'm encouraging you all to be no longer silent as well. And so what do I mean by the No Longer Silent mandate? What do I mean when I ask you to be no longer silent? It's really not complicated. I'm not asking you to be like Dale and take on a whole state right-to-life agency. I'm asking you to be no longer silent every day of your life, everywhere you go. Abortion comes up. in daily life. The topic of abortion comes up, especially with Roe v. Wade being overturned. More and more and more people are talking about it than ever before. It comes up at family gatherings. I know it does. It comes up at work, even. It comes up at the grocery store, at the gas station. And I'm imploring you to be no longer silent, to have the courage to speak up. Their lives are worth you speaking up, are they not? They are. And here's the thing. Here's why I started Pro-Life Man. When God convicted me of me not doing enough, he asked me, if I ask you about what you did for the unborn at the end of your life when you stand before me, will you be proud of your answer? I said, no, Lord, I won't be proud of my answer. I won't be able to stand before you. So he simply asked me to change that. He didn't give me a list of 10 pro-life commandments. He just said, change that. Be proud to stand before me on that day. When I ask you, what did you do for the least of these? What did you do for the most vulnerable, defenseless, and innocent people group among us? So I ask you the same question. Are you going to be proud when you stand before your Creator? If that happens tomorrow, are you proud tonight for what you've done for these babies? And if not, change it. We all have different passions, different strengths, different weaknesses. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying, change it. You know what you're good at. You know what your strengths are. You know where you can fit into the pro-life movement. If you're not proud, and I know many of you in this room are proud, change it. I beg you. Stand tall before the Lord on that day. And he says, well done, good and faithful servant. You know, I was expecting to make you guys cry. I'm up here talking about being masculine. But real men cry too, right? So let me show you a little bit of stats of why it's important to be no longer silent. The stats back me up. It's so important for men to be no longer silent. This is a CareNet survey that they did last year. And they asked 1,000 men that their child had been aborted. 1,000 men, they asked this question. To the best of your knowledge, with whom did she, the woman that got the abortion, whom did she discuss the abortion with prior to making the decision? 74% of the men said me. She discussed it with me. Now, I'd say the opinion of that man matters. Because otherwise, why is she coming to him to discuss it with him? And we see this in stats, and we hear this from stories from women where they think, well, I was kind of on the fence, and I was thinking about maybe keeping the baby, but I needed his support. When they go and ask the man, and he's like, whatever. Even if he's not saying abort it, but if he doesn't come out and say, keep it, the stats say those women abort those babies because they don't see the support from the man. Women need support from men. So men, be no longer silent, especially if you're the father of the baby. But I'm going to loop everyone else in that's not the father of a baby that might be aborted. If you see the third one down, 38%, her mother. She discussed it with her mother. 33%, her friends. 17%, her father. 13%, another family member. This question, they asked the men, who do you think was the most influential on the woman in the abortion decision? 38% of the men said me. I think that number is much, much higher, in my own opinion. 14% her mother, 7% her friends, 3% her father, 2% other family members. Did you guys know that you're on this survey? I don't know if CareNet sent you the email that you were included in the survey. See, because you are the mother, you are the father, you are the friend, you are the aunt, the uncle. And you are no longer silent. So you have an impact. And maybe you're not the father or the mother or the aunt or the uncle or the friend, but because you're no longer silent, you just talked to the mother or the father or the friend at work, at the grocery store, at the gas station, because you are no longer silent. You see the impact that you can have by just having the courage to speak up, not to fight, not to get vicious, not to get vile and angry, but to humbly speak up. Hey, what you're talking about, that's a baby. The mother won't regret having that baby. And you know what? I can adopt that baby. Or I know some people over here that can adopt that baby. On this topic of no longer silent, I leave you with the scripture. Job 29, verse 11. A lot of us avoid Job. It's a train wreck of a book. There's all kinds of theology of what's going on there. Don't ask me. I don't know. But these verses are powerful. May these verses be said about you. Whoever heard me spoke well of me, and those who saw me commended me, because I rescued the poor who cried for help and the fatherless who had none to assist them. The unborn. The one who is dying blessed me. I made the widow's heart sing. I put on righteousness as my clothing. Justice was my robe and my turban. I was eyes to the blind and feet to the lame. I was a father to the needy. I took up the case of the stranger. I broke the fangs of the wicked and snatched the victims from their teeth. You talk about a masculine verse right there. Yeah, I can get behind that verse. There's no flowers in that verse, let me tell you. That lavender is trampled on the ground right next to the teeth. Now, I want to talk about abortion grief and men that grieve abortion. When I started Pro-Life Band, I had one mission: encourage other men to be no longer silent. It didn't take long, though, for men grieving abortion to reach out to us. We started referring them to some other great organizations out there, but we started seeing a need that men also need help. Men also need healing from abortion. So these are two quick quotes. I was a father one day and not the next. She told me she had a miscarriage. Then I got the call from the abortion clinic. She had forgotten her medication. I've never felt so awful in my life. These are real quotes from real men that lost their children through abortion. The bottom one: words cannot describe the pain and overwhelming guilt that is always with me. I have no one to blame but myself. The absolute worst decision that I've ever made, the worst thing that I've ever done. And so we hear from these men. If you notice, each of these stories is on a different side of the abortion spectrum. The top guy had no say in the abortion. We hear from those men. Obviously, a heartbreaking, terrible loss for them. Many men want the child. Many men beg the pregnant girl to not have the abortion, and he's willing to let her sign away all rights, so he's the sole caregiver and she needs to do nothing for the baby. And she still goes ahead with the abortion anyways. But we also hear from men that they wanted the abortion, they paid for the abortion, maybe they even forced the abortion or threatened the girl if she didn't get the abortion. They too, years later, regret doing that, regret losing that child. And so we started seeing a theme, and we decided to do something. But before I tell you about that, I have a video for you. And I hope I know how to play it. Nope. Can you, Patrick, play that video, please? With the sound, please.
She was pregnant. We went to the Lamaze classes. I'm learning everything I can. I'd get real close to her belly and I'd say, Daddy loves his little baby. When they come out and say, you got a beautiful baby daughter, and they bring her out to me, and she's eyes are all closed, and I get real close to her face, and I said, Daddy loves his little baby, and she opens up her eyes and smiled, this huge smile. And my heart was like, oh my gosh, I mean, you never experience that level of love until you get a chance to see your own baby and see that smile in your face, on her face. It was just amazing. And I loved everything about being a dad. And it's maybe 6 months, 7 months later, my wife is pregnant again. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, another baby. This is going to be my son. And people thought for some reason we were going to have a boy, right? And we are going to name him Jesse Daniel. And I just thought it was cool because we'd name him JD and it would be tough, right? But she says to me, but I'm not having another child. I never wanted to have a child. I had your daughter for you because you wanted a child. I never wanted to have children. We never even discussed this. I'm not having another child for you. I'm getting an abortion. Man, I remember just like a gut punch. Like I just couldn't believe she was actually saying that to me. I said, but you've got this absolutely beautiful little baby right here. I said, and you want to kill her little brother? And as I said that, the door opens up and her sister walks in. Stephanie has decided she's going to have an abortion, and there's nothing that you can do to change her mind. Of course, they had timed this whole thing. She's going to break the news to me. Janet's going to come in. And I thought, no worries, no worries. I'll be able to convince my wife not to have an abortion. It might take a couple days, it might take a week, but I'll convince her. You can't kill my son. You can't kill my daughter Selena's little brother. You can't possibly do that. Well, I had no idea they had already scheduled an appointment for the abortion Monday morning. Well, it was done. It was over. There was nothing I could do to change what happened. Right away, I got a vasectomy because I never ever wanted to experience that again. I did the same thing that all men do. You don't deal with it. You hide it. You don't face the emotions because you don't know what to do with the emotions, and you just stuff it. So 33 years ago, my wife had the abortion, and it still haunts me to this day. And so there's not a day that goes by that I don't think about my child that never had a chance to live.
It's a hard video to watch. It's just one of the dozens and dozens and dozens of men that have reached out to us. One story. We hear from men that are 53 years past the abortion. And they still deal with daily grief, trauma, guilt, and shame about an abortion 53 years ago. You don't feel that when you kill a fish. I haven't caught many fish in my life. I'm a bad fisherman, but I've killed a few fish. I'm not riddled with shame and guilt and loss. It's a human being. We recently had a man reach out to us that was 40 years past 2 abortions. He revealed that his wife of 38 years, he's never told her about the 2 abortions he had 40 years ago. His wife of 38 years, and he has too much shame and guilt to tell her about those abortions. So in response to these stories, these men reaching out, we launched January 1st of this year, Fort Hope. It is our men's healing program. It is Christ-centered and gospel-based. I told you that Pro-Life Man has a non-Christian front, but I don't know how to bring healing to someone without Jesus Christ. So Fort Hope is Christ-centered, gospel-based. And we know there's lots of organizations out there that have started different healing programs for these men. Rachel's Vineyard doing retreats, Save One doing 12-week Bible studies, Deeper Still doing abortion healing retreats, Surrendering the Secret doing several-week Bible studies. But one thing that's a little different about Fort Hope is it's developed by men for men, first of all. Most of these other programs started for women, designed for women, and then just slightly catered to at least begin doing something for men, and I'm grateful for that. But Fort Hope is designed for men, and you will only be ministered to by men. Also, a lot of men can't commit to a retreat or a 10 or 12-week Bible study for their healing. Many men are the breadwinners in their families, and they're busy. And so Fort Hope ideally is a 6-week course. We've narrowed it down. But really, we try to get as much accomplished in every session that we have with them, including the first session, because we know statistically we might not hear from them again. So let's get as much accomplished as we can in this one session. And then we work to reach out to local pastors and priests in that man's area and have them connect with this man to make sure that we continue the healing and further the healing process. And I want to do something very important. Statistically, some men in here might be post-abortive. You might be a father of an aborted child, and maybe no one knows about it. If you are suffering, it's very important that you reach out to us. We want to offer help and healing. So you can email us at hope@prolifeman.org or go to prolifeman.org/forthope, and there's a form that you can fill out that we will receive, and we'll be in touch with you. And she has me on a timer. Can I pay for extra time? And so, my very exciting announcement. Many pregnancy centers have reached out to us and said, hey, it's great that you have Fort Hope. It's great that men can email you. But we want to do men's healing at our local pregnancy center, but we don't know how to do it. Can you help? So it took some time to develop. But I'm very proud to announce to you the first ever audience to be introduced to this as soon as my iPad comes back to life. We are announcing, as of today, Fort Hope chapters, where local pregnancy centers can partner with us, and we will provide the training and the materials to empower them to bring the methodology of Fort Hope to their local pregnancy center. And I'm even more proud to announce the first ever pregnancy center that we are partnering with is right here in the Black Hills. It's so important that the work that we're doing with Travis, the director of the Black Hills Pregnancy Center, we're kind of learning as we're going. We're ironing out the kinks. But again, about a dozen pregnancy centers across the U.S. have asked us to bring Fort Hope to them. So we're working with Travis to see how this works for a few months. And then our goal is January 1 of next year to open this up to pregnancy centers across the United States. And so, yes, thank you. I appreciate your time. This has been a phenomenal conference, Dale. I thank you so much for having me. Thank you all for having me. If you'd like to support Pro-Life Banner and the work that we're doing, there's a few options up there on how you can do it. Otherwise, thank you for having me here.
Thank you, my friend.